Hi, my name is Pedro Moreira da Silva, and I'm staff product designer at GitLab. And today I'm going to share with you how we are stepping into the UX of Duo Workflow. I tried to do like a cheeky, joke with, Duo Workflow and flowing into the work, but it didn't work. And now this is recorded. But anyway, stepping into the UX of Duo Workflow. So let's get started. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been at GitLab for over 7 years now, and I've worked in many different places of the product. And today, I'm not assigned to a specific team, and I'm starting to work on this project, the Duo Workflow, that some of you might have heard about. And I'm born, raised, and based in sunny Lisbon, Portugal, and it is sunny today, fortunately. And so let's get started. And while I'm sharing what we've been up to, I would like for you all to think about these two questions that I have for you, and I'd love your feedback. And I'm using this as an opportunity to actually improve what we're doing. So yeah, any feedback is welcome, but specifically these 2 points. The first one, use cases. So think about in your product area, what tasks might we automate with AI to free up the user's time? So think about tasks that are tedious, repetitive, error-prone, boring, or low stakes. And second, the design part. So if you were working on this instead of me, what would be your key UX considerations? So what are the important aspects that you would try to keep at top of mind to ensure a great user experience with AI? And we will revisit these questions at the end, but feel free to add your thoughts to the agenda. I've already added these questions to the agenda of the UX Showcase. So what is the high-level problem to solve with Duo Workflow? And this statement here on the right side, as a developer, I want to interact with GitLab AI solutions, Duo, to use all the pieces of GitLab to complete tasks as efficiently as possible so I can deliver code to production safely for my company. And this is very ambiguous, right? It's not really grounded on anything in specific, and this is part of the problem to solve that we as UX professionals have right now in this project. And it is me, Pedro, in product design, and Nick Hertz in UX research. And we are actively, at this moment, working with product management to find out what are actually the problems that we're solving, what we want to do with these capabilities. What I can say is that we are looking at workflows, and workflows is not just completing a single isolated task with AI, but is how can we leverage AI for multi-step processes. So processes where the steps are interconnected and they all work towards a specific outcome. And that outcome can be more open-ended or not, but yeah, that's what we're working towards. So what have we done so far? So on the left side, this is what we've already done. We clarified, what is the context, the timeline, and the role of UX in this project. We've done some UX, some desk research, looking at prior research and dovetail insights regarding what I just mentioned before. Also, industry and academic insights. This is a very interesting area for academic insights because AI work, not just AI in terms of like the technicalities of models and machine learning and all of that, but also the UX of AI, even though sometimes they don't use the term UX or user experience, there have been every month new academic papers talking about it. And some of them are actually quite specific to DevOps, which is amazing. And we also looked at competitor UX, not only the products, but also the user feedback in public forums for our competitors, which is a great way to learn from what they're doing well and not so well. And third, we proposed some product principles for alignment and consistent decision making. And I then also did a rough exploration of how they could be put in practice. But for the product principles, I wanted to highlight three of them that I feel are could be very useful to understand the work that we're doing. So the first one is this one, mentor over dictate. So where the agent, which would be like an AI actor, helps the user learn and become more proficient. And so an example of that would be explaining the trade-offs of options approaches, or explaining how a specific method, technology, framework, or tool works, or even offering a personalized list of training resources once you get to the end of a workflow, maybe. And this is something that no tool is doing very well today. They all offer a very dictator approach. So, just do it this way. And we don't explain a lot of what AI is doing and what the code is doing and what it is outputting. And it doesn't give you options. It doesn't explain you the approaches or what AI is thinking that maybe this approach is better because of this, and that. So we have a great potential for differentiation here, to actually mentor users and help them be more proficient instead of just the basic thinking of let's just replace the human tasks, and not help the user actually do them better or learn what the AI is doing. The other one that is interesting is enable iteration over conclusion. So where the agent encourages the user to work in small steps and exploring the problem solution space instead of following a fully prescribed plan and jumping to the end. And so this is, expressing the task, articulating the plan, and then selecting all parts of the output, verifying the results. So it's like an iterative way for AI to work with the user. And a great benefit of this is that not only working step by step makes it easier for users to review, question, learn, tweak, and proceed, it's also reduces the cognitive and system load, which is a very big problem for users to, when you're asking AI to solve a big workflow with many outputs, is, okay, now I have to pause and I have to review of this, as if you had to review a very large merge request, right? That's why we tend to, just create small merge requests. It's easier on everyone. And also the system load. The AI capabilities take a long time to solve very big tasks. So if we do it iteratively, step by step, that can actually increase the sense of perceived performance for users. And yeah, it also improves the learning and so on. And finally, I think very much top of mind regarding the work that a lot of people have done for the jobs to be done is playing specific over generic roles. So that would be having a team of agents working together with the user. So if you think of the jobs to be done and the job performers, for example, a coder agent would have a deep understanding of programming logic and testing and technologies and frameworks. It would have their goal and also what they are, looking to do in their specific job. And we have already built, and this is, part of what the industry is doing, is instead of having a very large language model that you just throw prompts at and it does its thing, we use the same large language model, but we build like separate instances of that model with specific instructions or that have like the motivations, the specification, what you want them to do. So you can have a coder agent, a planning agent, a reviewer agent, a manager agent. You can have all of these roles that we would normally have in a software development team, but using that team together with the user. So that it could be a very nice bridge between all of the information that we have for our jobs to be done and maybe even personas, and how can we port that and use that advantage when we build these workflows. And yeah, now as I said before, we're identifying the problems to solve in priorities, and Nick Hertz is helping me with this. And I created this use cases matrix to better articulate our bets in case you're interested. I'm not going to go into detail right now. But what I wanted to show you is maybe a low fidelity vision of some of the key use cases that have been defined before we got on board in this project. So leadership, had a vision of what we could do and some use cases for us to tackle. And this low fidelity vision that I put together is to facilitate key discussions and try to gain alignment. It does not necessarily reflect what we're going to do. So let me jump into the vision. There you go. Let me see. I don't know if you're seeing my screen.
No, it hasn't switched yet.
Okay, give me a second. All right, you should be seeing it now. All right, so one quick example, and you feel free to explore the prototype because we're not going to have enough time, but let's imagine you're in an issue and we have this new button here at the top that says code with GitLab Duo. So it would create an actionable implementation plan for you to work with GitLab Duo in the web IDE to solve this issue. And once you do that, we would have this view that is comprised of two separate views. So here in the middle, we have the thinking or planning view. So it takes the input of the issue description. It can take the input of anything else that we want. It creates a high-level plan. And even within the plan, you have for certain steps, different approaches. And do you want to go with this approach, option 1 or option 2? And you select that. You can use the chat here on the side to inquisit AI about what are these options, what we can do here, what we can do there, modify the plan, or you can edit the plan directly. And think of this as planning a trip with your GPS app, with your Maps app. You're setting the destination, right? That is the issue, that is the ultimate goal. And what are the steps that we need to take to get to that destination? And maybe for certain steps, you want to go with the highway option. Maybe for other steps, you want the countryside option that, you avoid tolls, but it's slower, but it's also beautiful, right? So what are the trade-offs? And once we open the web IDE, we would have the same style with the plan as a file. And here at the top, we have the goal that we're trying to achieve with GitLab Duo and some messages of how we could proceed. And once we start implementing the plan, GitLab Duo goes step by step. So in this step 1, it created this file or changed code. It stops, it says what it did, and it actually encourages user to make more changes or ask questions about what it did. And when you're ready, let's move to step 2. And the user can stop right there and do their own thing. And once the user does some changes or asks questions, or even AI goes step by step, it will learn from this iterative process, and maybe it can even suggest new steps or amending the plan altogether. And another way is that we could use this is, okay, this is really interesting, these workflows. What if I want to automate some of them? That we have high confidence that on the quality of the AI output, or it is very narrow, the task, so it's not as open-ended as solving an issue. So what can we do about it? And in this case, this example is, what if we wanted to review merge requests automatically? So right now, we don't have that set up. I'm looking at a merge request, and I click here at the top and says, hey, I want GitLab Duo to review this merge request and get his feedback. So when I do this, the chat lets me know that it has reviewed the merge request and left a number of comments. And this is the important part here below. It's this nudging that can happen in many places, but it's encouraging the user to create an automation to review new merge requests with GitLab Duo. And this might not make sense, that we might not do this, and customers might not even want this, but it's just an example to visualize how we can then create automations. So it could be a new area in GitLab, and this is something that it's not new. We've been talking about it for years, but with GitLab Duo and these AI-powered capabilities, it increasingly adds more value than just the normal if this then else that you would have with other automations. And as you can see here, at this point, we set up a trigger when new merge requests are marked as ready, and what is the action we want them to be reviewed with GitLab Duo. We can add instructions of how we want AI to behave and which formats to use and examples. And we can also, click test here and have GitLab Duo test our automation and draft some of the content. And once you're okay with this, we can enable and save it and see other automations. So what I just showed you is a vision for two things, and feel free to explore the rest of the prototype. One is this pair working on a specific plan and going step by step. The other is when we want to create automations that maybe use AI. And yeah, that's it. So questions to you. What are the use cases and also the design considerations? We don't have much time, but I hope that you were able to fill out some things in the agenda. And yeah, thank you so much. Obrigado.
It looks like there's only 2 presenters today. So Pedro, we do have a little bit of time for questions if you want to go through them. It looks like Gina is up first.
Yes. I wanted to add this. Austin had added a point in your number 2 down there, but I wanted to build off of his runner point that it's right now creating runners is tedious, and fixing, like, we just want jobs to work, and when jobs don't work because of the runners, fixing those runners is very tedious, and the whole process is long because the admin has to talk with the developer and they go back and forth. So we could reduce that time by a lot if we just automate the creation of runners, or just automate like editing their config to work, to get a job to work. The other side of this is that the risk might be that it increases costs depending on where those runners live. But like in Austin's case, where you're just setting up a runner to review an MR, it just lives locally. And, like editing the config at that point shouldn't be that large of a risk.
Right. Yeah. This is a great one. I think I was talking with David DeSanto yesterday, and he, for the that is example that I showed you of like solve an issue or create code for this these requirements, he was like, oh, can we also explore like the future idyllic vision of just clicking on a button, or even having an automation that where AI would solve issues for you without you even having to do anything. And I think, like what the example that you were giving, we need some guardrails. We need to be able to define what is acceptable or not acceptable. So in your case, it could be setting a threshold of, costs, right? Okay, I'm okay with AI doing things on my behalf and automating and fixing things if the confidence is very high that it's going to succeed, and also if the costs go up to X amounts. And this is just an example. And the same thing for solving an issue, right? If we can have confidence in AI and say, okay, you can only solve issues if you have X percentage or confidence that you can solve them correctly, yeah, you can solve them. And we've been seeing almost week by week, these code agents being more and more and more proficient in solving issues very well by themselves. But we're still not there. I think the best benchmark we have right now is coder agents solving correctly like 20%, 20 to 25% of the issues on an issue tracker, like of a standard issue tracker, which is already incredible. But yeah, we need those thresholds, and I appreciate your input.
Yeah.
Sorry. Austin, looks like you've got a couple here. Just a couple more minutes left, and then we'll switch presenters.
Yeah, sure. This isn't my product area specifically, but it is a boring, error-prone, potentially low-stake, repetitive opportunity. I just so badly want Duo to tell me when I need to rebase my MR. It's just one of the skills I've had to learn that sometimes your MR is failing and it's not your fault. Something upstream broke and you just got to wait for that thing to get fixed and rebase and your pipelines go green again. But that's a very unknown thing to me. So I just have to guess. And sometimes I waste hours trying to like fix something locally thinking I'm the problem. Just find out, no, you just rebase off the main branch and you'll be fine tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wonder, I don't know the details of how it works or how the problem is caused, but I wonder if at a certain point just a rule-based approach could work without AI. Like if the pipeline fails, automatically retry it with a rebase, or I don't know. But that's I get that. I've experienced that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure it gets messy with merge conflicts and whatnot. But yeah, that's definitely one of the boring things I would just love to be at least suggested to, like, hey, just hold tight. Rebase tomorrow. It'll probably work because that's what I do now, and usually it works. So
Chad, you got a few points there?
Yes, I probably should have just marked these as read only. They're just elaborations on what Austin said. I think automatically rebasing when it determines is appropriate with a runner, like the stuff that that is, they're planning on doing with like AI-based bots. Would also be nice to see a better message about specifically what specs failed, like a deduplicated list of like, here's all the specs across all the jobs that you need to go fix because something's wrong with them. It would also be cool to see suggestions for merge conflicts from Duo on MRs, because sometimes it's really obvious to a human what needs to be changed, or there isn't actually a merge conflict. It's like a white space change or whatever. Those would all, I think, be big productivity boosts for code changes.
That's great. Thank you, Chad. Yeah. I'm actually, this is some of these things, when you're telling me now, they're like, oh yeah, that's obvious. But yeah, what happens actually is there are so many things that we could do that these inputs are very, very valuable. So I really appreciate everyone's that adding things to the agenda. Thanks, Chad.
And maybe one more. Becca, you got a point here?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to, if AI can help us identify similar vulnerabilities and propose a fix, whether if it's a SaaS vulnerability, would be like a code change, or if it's like dependency scanning, it's often like a component upgrade that needs to happen. But identifying like where a change would affect the most number of vulnerabilities, because it could be the same vulnerability across different projects in the group, and just to be able to have the system help identify where they can have the most impact immediately, because it can be extremely overwhelming, the number of security vulnerabilities, especially like at a group or organization level. They really just need help in determining what changes they can make immediately that are going to have the largest impact. And we do have resolve vulnerability where AI proposes that change, but we don't yet know how we're going to do this at scale. Because would it create several MRs? I need to think through that a little bit more, but there's a huge opportunity there. I don't know if this really falls in line with the question, because while it's tedious, repetitive, and error prone, it's pretty high stakes, not low stakes. But it's less high stakes because the fix doesn't just merge automatically. Like, it opens a merge request and there's still that MR review, approvers, all that process that it has to go through. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that would be huge if somehow we could figure out bulk remediation suggestions.
Yeah, that's something that we also discussed, was, the typical one is like the vulnerabilities and fixing them because of the urgency, how time sensitive they are. At that point, it also comes back to the confidence level, right? Of how confident we are as humans, and also how confident the AI system is in actually fixing that reasonably. And yeah, there are many things we can do to help with that, and that would be incredible if we can have that automated with a very high level of confidence.
Right. And that high level of confidence is both tricky to measure and I mean, it's probably gonna be wrong sometimes as much as we want it to be right 100% of the time.
So one of the things about that, one of the things that has actually been great in this process that I've seen with that multi-agent setup, where you have a team of AI agents working together to solve something, is if imagine you had a coder agent that is writing the fix for the vulnerability, you then have a reviewer agent that reviews the code, and then maybe you even have a QA agent that validates the fix logically, and to actually verify by like ones and zeros, it validates that it's actually fixing something. And that is a level of confidence that you need. You need to prove that the fix works. It's not just creating the merge request with the code. It needs to run through the tests. It needs to, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way for us to do that.
Cool.
But thanks,
So I'm going to end it there if we can.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Oh, thank you, Pedro, and thanks everyone for the discussion. There's another question Pedro has there in the doc if you all want to interact with that async. I'm going to stop the recording.